How's the babe, Chills? Maybe you should listen to your cousin. Here's what I've learned so far in life, Samantha. When the spirit tells you it's time to move, you get to stepping. And that's what Mom did, and at a much younger age than me, right, Mom? I don't know what the spirit is telling you to do, but I am very happy and grateful that I got to work with my baby for as long as I did. And now we are going to end this thing with a bang, have a fabulous show, and raise a ton of money for charity. That's awesome.
I'm gonna mute the TV soon because I have something that I wanted to say that I could have said in my past videos, but I didn't want to. I don't know why.
What's the next thing?
I know why.
We are going to show
Probably
you.
anxiety or
Okay, Andre and I have to get to the club to set up shots, but first let's take some photos here.
Let's get mother-daughter first.
Okay.
like, I think it bothers me. Hold on, let me mute the TV.
And 3, 2.
I think I should mute. I kind of want to edit that part out. This is too much into my life that this is my room. I don't want so much, like, in my room.
When migraine strikes, do you question the trade-offs of treating? Ubrelvy is another option. It works fast, and most of migraine pain relief within 2
Anyways, so in my last video, I mentioned something, but I didn't say, this is better for me. I mentioned what I was going through in the past couple of years, why I haven't really been posting as much as I normally would or used to. And it's really because I got into this tumultuous relationship. And he was so controlling. And I wouldn't I wouldn't expect or pick up what, was going on until like afterwards. Like, I didn't really realize that he was putting me down. Like, he was boosting me up to put me down. Like, he was always telling me how much he loved me and everything like that. So I really felt like, we were solid or whatever. But like, behind my back, literally, he's telling like people who don't like me, like, everything about me, or I don't know, just how to get under my skin. And they were doing it, or he was, I don't know, but I felt like there was no loyalty behind my back, obviously. And it was like, not to say back in high school, but we had high school friends because we were young. Anyway, yeah, the relationship was tumultuous. I just felt like, well, yeah, like I was saying, how he showed me like he was loyal, but he wasn't really loyal. And I wouldn't know that until certain things, like I would have to do the math alone. Like, I had to find out what 2 + 2 was and come to my own conclusions. Like, I had friends at that time. Like, I had female friends, male friends. Like I said, if I had a social life, well, I had a social life. If I had a social media life, it's because I had a social life. And anyway, like I said, behind my back, like him and all my friends, I knew that they would have like weird, like, because they would always just change, like, all of a sudden, just because he was, and I was friends with them longer than I was with him. So I knew he had something to do with my friendships. So, like, with all my female friends, none of them, like, were open with me. None of my female friends were open with me anymore. And all of my male friends started, like, trying to hit on me. You know what I mean? And it was very weird because these are the people that you've been with, like, during turning into an adult, like, you know what I mean? Like, before you guys, got boobs and got deeper voices and shit like that. Anyway, so I knew my ex had something to do with it because I knew him before his voice got deep. And his voice only got deep because he would smoke a lot. I don't think that his voice was ever gonna get deep. And I think that's why he smoked a lot, so he could have a deeper voice. But that's not why I was with him. But anyway, I just felt like he was very insecure, and he tried to push his insecurities onto me. Yesterday I was wearing some eyelash glue, or it wasn't even eyelash glue because I couldn't find my duo nor my freaking the eyelash adhesive. I couldn't find none of that, so I just used some wild as shit bold hold. Anyway, um I was going on with my ex and everything. And so, like I said, with my female friends, none of them was open with me anymore. Like, they were all like, you know, being weird, like treating me weird. Like, when I say treating me weird, like, I used to have a charismatic, joking vibe. And I would just, tell jokes, be funny and everything like that, do silly faces and everything. Like, be really animaic, if that's a word. Just animation. I don't know how to say it. Just like, making faces and talking and telling stories and everything. And I remember just randomly doing that. And there was this one girl who she was new, but she wasn't like new. It was just because like she had a class, like we were in college at this time. She had a class with one of my friends, and they ended up just hanging out because they played the same video games and everything, so they wanted to hang out and play games, whatever. Anyway, so she was there and I was telling the story and she was looking at me like this. You know what I mean? Like she smelled something bad. Or I don't know, like she was just, but the thing is, I caught her looking at me like that. She was pretending like she was laughing. You know what I mean? Like egging me on, egging the story on. She was like, you know what I mean? Like, well, anyway. So that was literally when I started closing up, like zoning out and like cutting my social life short because I'm like, when did people start being fake to me? What the hell did I do to people for them to turn around? I'm just trying to find out what the hell did I do to people, because as far as I knew, I was cool. They was cool with me. I don't get into drama with people. I don't get into disagreements with people. If they have a problem with me, I normally address it right then and there and solve it. But because I didn't really know her, um, I just felt like at that time I just felt like it was me who was just like really cringy, who was just like, and it's not like I was goofing off. I was just telling a story, like sitting there telling a story. It's not that much. If you knew my friends, if you know my friends, we all lived with our parents at the time. So, and we weren't all that rich either. Like, thank God I'm an only child. But like with all of my other friends, they were siblings, so they lived with their siblings. When I say live with their siblings, I mean share rooms with their siblings. So the rooms were kind of small. So it wasn't like, we would literally all be, it would be at least 6, 7 of us squeezed in to one room, just sitting on wherever we can on the bed or on the floor or like on the dresser, just like literally just hanging out. Someone's playing the video games, Sometimes we'd be drinking, like until it was time to go home because, like I said, we were young. Anyway, um, so yeah, and it was literally all just a vibe, and we would be sneaking alcohol because it was only one of us that was able to buy alcohol, and that was the oldest one of us. I'm not mentioning any names, but we would just give him the money. He would be 21 at the time. He would buy the liquor, and then we would just be chilling, drinking. Um, dum 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 dum. Ugh, with my ex. As soon as and all of those times, the fun times were before I met or before I started dating my ex. I actually knew him in high school. We had a class in the 10th grade together. Anyway, and even in that class, he didn't do no work. He was just a class clown. But everyone loved him. I liked him too, you know, because he was funny. He was really funny. Like, he kept the class. If he wasn't there, the class was like a dead day. But when he was there, it was like people would skip just to sit next to him. And he would just be like, anyway, that's not the point. The point is how fake he is. And he's very weird. So, all of those times I would hang out with him before. I would hang out with him and everything like that before. No, I would hang out with my friends before meeting him, before being with him. After I been with him, after I started hanging out with him, my friends and I started hanging out less and less. My baby is over there ripping stuff up. Anyway, I started hanging out with my friends less and less, and that's when like new people would start coming in. But I get it because we're all in college at that time, and like newer people were joining us, and like we were meeting them, but didn't really know them, and all this weird shit. But we were like, anyway, that's not the point. The point is, my ex would just hop into my friendships, because at the time, and I know me and him are not getting back together, but at the time, he was, you know, someone that a lot of people had his number to. Uh, if you know, you know. If not, it's fine. But which I didn't know. Anyway. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know who all had his number. You know what I mean? Like, that's something he wasn't really telling me because one moment he'll say that, oh, this is just a, you know, person that he just met, whoop de whoop. And a second, you know, impression of the person is them messaging each other on some other context. Anyway, so I would check him on the other context, but I would leave him alone when it's just like, okay, you know, regular people. Anyway, and he would regular people my friends. So I didn't really think too much of, you know, all the people he would talk to. But I didn't know what kind of relationships he would have with people. And so that's what I mean when I say like people started like people started treating me like I was out of the loop. And I didn't know that I was out of the loop. I didn't even know there was a loop. I thought I was in the loop. I thought they were my friends. But dealing with him, I was out of the loop, and I would feel like I am in the loop because of, first of all, who he was, and and because they were my friends first. I felt like, if anything, our relationships would get stronger, if you get it. Anyways, so that's, I guess, the background of this story. I didn't want to get on here for too long, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Anyway, um, so also, I was a church girl. I would go to church with my friends, not with him. My ex, he was very weird about church. And, well, I don't know, I tried to get him in church with me, but like he would go to certain events with me. I would bring him and other friends with me to, like, if one of my church going members would throw a party at their house, I would invite them. No one was doing, never mind. Anyway, I would invite them to the event, and they got along with everybody, obviously. Um, so even my church going friends, like the guys that were in that, you know, everyone was like very innocent. Only Jesus was the topic. And all of a sudden it turned out to, oh, you know, like everyone when they met my ex, they acted like they bit some apple. You know what I mean? Like some different knowledge, and they was treating me out of the loop and treating me like they never met me before. You know what I mean? Anyway, I was finding out later on, way later on, what he was doing. But one of the church going friends, let me just do this real fast. I met in school because, like I said, my school friends were all going to church, but I wasn't hanging out with this school friend from school. I was hanging out with him from church with all of my other friends because they were cool with him. I've never had a real conversation with them. All I knew was his father was a science teacher. That's all I knew of him. So I knew his father more than I knew him. You know what I mean? Hold on. But he went to the church, not the father, the son. And that's how we got like cooler. But at that time, I'm still with, my ex. So I wasn't looking at nobody. I was just there so I don't get fined, how they would say. You know what I mean? So that my mom wouldn't think that I was like some airhead, directionless person, whatever. Literally, anyway. Staying on topic. So I met this friend at, well, I didn't meet him at church. I knew him because of my friends. Like I know who he is, but I don't just talk to guys. Like I talk to my friends because they're like fun people, and like we just have like fun hanging out. Like they're just silly people. They're not like that serious. Anyway, but him, I felt like he was kind of serious, and I didn't really like people who was like too serious because at that time we were young. Like, why are you so serious? But I get it. I don't know. Like people be stressed out about their living situations, whatever. I don't know. Everyone has their own story. Anyways, so with my ex and this guy. So, being that I joined the church kind of later than all my friends because I don't know, like I just moved to that school. I mean, not that I just moved, but I was fairly new compared to them. Like they were there first and I joined because, you know, I don't know, like cuz they were my friends first. And I was like, okay, if my friends are going to church, I'm going to church. Excuse my background, I have a toddler. I'm like, well, if my friends are going to church, I'm going to church. And but like I said, unbeknownst to me, they went to church because they met these new. That's another story. That has nothing to do with this story. Anyway, staying on track. I lost my itching comb, so this is gonna have to do. um. So with the friend that started going to the church, we both like started around the same ish time going to the church and like being new to the church and going to the church and everything. And so we ended up going to the same like baptism class. We were graduating at the same time and everything. Anyway, we ended up baptizing on the same day, and that's how we got really close, like closer. But we weren't that close. But my ex, you couldn't tell him that. Like it was a day in specifically that my ex made that friend and I hang out at that friend's house. And let me tell you something. Back in the day, when I said that how me and my friends would hang out and start drinking and everything, that wasn't the only thing we were doing. We were also, chiefing. Chiefing. So we would chief and tell stories and have fun and do dumb shit and then go home. Because obviously our parents are worried sick. We would all have some time because obviously we weren't free adults. Like we were people who our parents were on our ass about. But my ex wasn't. He moved out of his mom's house at a young age. I know that's a lot of information, but he didn't have the same morals that we did. And that's why, in his mind, the universe was different. Anyways, like I said, everyone knew my ex for one thing. If they didn't really have a class with him, they knew him for one thing, and that was, never mind. Anyways, so if you get it, you get it. My friends and I would be drinking, sleeping, and then we would go home and pretend to be sober. Okay. And still go to church. Like, but we wouldn't be chiefing at church or anything like that. We would just go to church on Sunday, and on the other days, we would just be hanging out. This friend, I know I keep jumping, and that's really because, like I said, I'm jumping again. I don't really like talking about it because it makes me feel so, it's just so ghetto for no reason. Anyways, it's very ghetto. My ex made this friend and I hang out at his house, and that was my first time ever going to his house. And the intention was to just chief, smoke, and drink and everything. Stop. You see how it's like the universe doesn't want me to tell this story? Because every time I get close to telling the story, it's weird. Anyway.
Yes, it is. The kind of thing that Danny does best. Which is why I wanted to say thank you for suggesting that I check in with her.
I've actually been wondering lately if I overstepped talking to her.
I don't think so. I appreciated it. Sometimes even a sister can see all the signs.
So ghetto.
But I am glad that you
Anyways. Doesn't matter. It's fixed. It's fixed. We don't care about this little part. It's fixed. Yeah, so me and this friend, and it was our first time, and it was literally after we got baptized. So you wouldn't think anything weird. Like, I would think we're going over there to, like, Bible study and, like, smoke. I mean, chief. To chief and Bible study. For some odd reason, he gets so weird, and he's like, you know, like, he starts acting all, you know, H word, like thorn. And then it was like very weird because he knew who I was dating, and he knew who my ex was. My other ex, not even the one that I was talking about, you know, the ex story. The story of the ex, not him. I had an ex before him, like in high school. Like I was dating him all through high school until we broke up and just became friends. And those are the friends that we just chief with. We just hang out and chief with. And the friends that I met through him are the friends that we chief and drink and just have fun with. Like, because they're all young. Like, anyways. So with this friend, he started just being like very weird. Like, oh, he's so, you know, he can't control himself, and just started like being extreme. And then like it was just us two in his house, and I still wasn't giving up nothing. Like no matter how, you know, uncontrollable you're feeling or whatever you got going on. He was going through it. It was so weird. Anyway, so his mom came home. If I knew it, listen, I don't even care. We went over there to smoke, to cheat and to go back home. But it was so awkward. Like his mom came home and she was trying to get to him. Like we didn't go in his room because I was like, I'm not going. Anyway, we ended up hanging out in this den. They had a den in the house. And it was a low-key, it was a decent sized house. Anyway, he had a den and we was hanging in there watching TV until I don't know what we were waiting for. I didn't remember, but at that time it was years ago, like almost a couple lifetimes ago. I don't remember what we were waiting for, but he was over there acting, you know, and I was just like waiting for, I guess, a ride. I wasn't driving or anything. And I don't know. I guess I was waiting on a ride. I didn't have a job back then, so I didn't have no money to Uber. I didn't have none of that. No, nothing. We ended up going to the army afterwards, after that. This is before the army. Like, we were so young. And I went to the army, I was like 18. So you could tell how old we were. We were like 18, 17, 18, 19, like that. We had to be at least 19. Anyways, yeah, we were 19 because our oldest friend was 2 years older than us. And everybody was like 20, 19, 20. Yeah. And I was kind of one of the youngest. So I was like, you know, anyway, that's not the point. So, yeah, his mom comes home and she's knocking on the den trying to get his attention. And he is like, shh, don't say nothing. Shh, don't say nothing. And I'm like, bro, she knows you're here. Why are you acting like don't say nothing? Like you're making it seem like we're doing something that you're hiding from. Just go answer the door. He's, no, shh, don't say nothing. No, don't. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what kind of relationship he and his mom had. I hated that I was even over there. It made it seem like I was into something. Like it made it seem like, you know, like something had happened. And I hate that. Like I hate how guys get so jealous or insecure that they create something just to send somebody else like down, like just to like cause a scene, just to cause a stir, just to knock somebody off their like calm vibe. Like it just made it disgusting. Anyways, and I knew my ex had something to do with that because that friend that I mentioned was one of the only people with a vehicle. So he was able to drive. And I haven't seen him after that one weird encounter. I was like, that was very weird, and I just stopped talking to him. And I was hanging out with my ex more because like I stopped going to the, not that I stopped going to the church, but I stopped hanging out with my friends. I don't remember like why. I guess because they started hanging out with like everybody. Anyways, like everyone that I didn't know, like even because my ex started dating a new girl, like the one that I was just hanging out with as friends was hanging out with, you know, hanging out with all my friends. My ex was part of that friend group, and he started dating somebody else. And everyone knew that I had a boyfriend. So when he started dating someone, everyone was looking at me like I was intruding. So I was like, let me just leave. I stopped hanging out with everyone so much, and I don't know. Anyways, and I would only hang out with them whenever I needed a friend. You know, like whenever I wanted to talk to somebody and smoke, I would hang out with them. Anyway, it still wasn't on no weird... Anyways, that was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. And so being that he had a car, I was hanging out with my ex and my ex's group of friends. And he pulls up to where we were hanging out at. And then I'm trying to hurry up and tell the story because my child is acting up, clearly impatient. I get it. So I fucking hate. I'm sorry. I hate that I had to go through this. Like I hate that I was so unprotected that I had to like be someone's like test rabbit or test hamster test. You know, like I hate that I was in these positions just to find out who I am or find out, you know, I just don't like being in situations that, because I'm an only child and I have to protect myself because no one's going to protect me but me. And that's why I'm very defensive now. And that's why a lot of people claim that I'm intimidating and tough and defensive and all these attitude black women, you know, stuff because I have to protect myself. No one's gonna, they're gonna throw me in positions where I have to protect myself, you know? And for you to call yourself my, you know, someone who loves me, someone who cares about me, and you're the one putting me in these awkward positions with people who I can cry to, you know what I mean? Or I could have cried to. I could have carried my burdens to so that they would just be like, that's crazy. And then it would just be dropped right then and there. But now I literally can't talk to them anymore because I felt like they were like expecting something else, like a different form of me who I was not. Anyway, so this person drove up to the friends group that I was hanging out with my ex, and it was like at least a year later or a couple of months later. And he my ex was the only one who approached the vehicle. He didn't even come out of the car to greet anybody. We were outside standing on the porch, standing in front of where we were, the location that we were, you know, chiefing, having a good time, whatever. And this guy, he pulls up. I'm thinking he's about to chief too. um Anyway, my ex goes to the car. They stay like that. Like he goes to the car, he puts his hand on the hood and he's like talking to this friend. The friend is like still in the car, like the car's parked. I think it's still running. He didn't even turn the car off. And I think he did turn it off. I don't even remember. But they were there for at least 45 minutes to an hour. All of a sudden, that friend pulls off. Don't even get out the car, don't say hi to anybody else, pulls off. And I'm like, bro, that's weird. You could at least said hi, or you could have, you know, said something. So I'm looking at my boyfriend at the time. I'm looking at him and I'm like, what was that about? And he's like, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And that's, you know, anyways, bookmark that. That's how that's how I knew that my ex was also the one, the battery behind all these other, you know, weird, awkward conquests that people are putting me into because he's supposed to be my protector at the time. And that's one thing that I'll never like forgive him about. He was the only one to put me in all of these like positions, these awkward positions. And he's supposed to be someone who, anyways, he was definitely the ops. And I didn't even know. I didn't know he was the ops.
What story will you tell? Why is special K so special?
But anyway, he has my personality out there, like my reputation out there, looking like I'm some H word, you know, like I'm just a tool. And it's really because now, let's rewind the story a little bit. Rewind till before I met this ex, to when I was hanging out with all my groups of friends, the old friends from high school. After that, like, not too many of my friends were smoking at that time. I was smoking because I don't even know why I was smoking. I know why, because I was stressed out. I've been stressed out. I'm an only child, and my mom puts all of her burdens on me. If you know, you know. But I literally have stories on here talking about, well, most. Now I'm starting back again, talking about all the times that we have these minor situations, and my ex knew about that. So he would just embarrass me and tell me to go home. You know what I mean? So, anyways, before I met him, like that was afterwards, like way afterwards, like when I would start going off on him, because I didn't know that he was doing these things. Anyways, back to the rewind. When I was hanging out with my group of friends, I met this friend that who's all right, let me think. Let me gather my thoughts. But the friend who, let me give him a name. Let's just call him, I don't know what I want to call him because I don't want to give up. Oh, the science teacher's son, if you remember. So the science teacher's son, we were going to church classes, Bible study classes together, and other biblical classes together. Is this still on? Oh, it was. Anyways, because I was like, why do I look? It was because I cried. Anyway, um, so, I'm gonna try to get through this. I'm gonna try. And I feel like because I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, I am so, like, cat has got my tongue because now they're gonna ask, how the hell did I get myself in that situation? And that's something that I really can't answer. Like, literally, I was dating my ex. But anyways, before my ex, I was hanging out with, the science teacher's kid, son, and because we had the same baptism date, we were gonna baptize at the same time. So we were like hanging out, trying to get to know each other. And that was literally the first day that okay, so the smoking session that we had at his house was the second time that we hung out. The first time was when I knew that he smoked too, and I was like, okay, then let's smoke and just hang out and have a wonderful day. Like, where are we gonna go? Walk around the block. He's like, oh, you know who lives around you? I'm like, who? And that's when I met another person. Anyway, me and this person clicked right then and there. And at the time, I'm not putting no names out, but he was a little bit bigger, or a lot bigger. But he had so much personality, and he was so funny. Like, I remembered when we were done when we were done smoking, because we went outside to smoke. Like, anyway, we were smoking, and then we went back inside to just hang out and just sat down. And he was walking. He was walking like this, like he was so stoned he couldn't walk. I was like, why are you walking like that? Like, anyways, that was like the first thing that I said to him, and that's how we ended up like being cool. Like, I don't know. And I didn't know that he was so close to me. So literally every day afterwards, I hang out with him. Hanging out with him was how I met the other person who I ended up going out with, my ex. The ex of the video. Okay? Because being with him, who lives by me, we went out for a split second. Like, we made it official for a little while, but we broke up because he didn't. I felt like he should post me. I told him to post me and tell people you're in a relationship, and just, I kind of wanted to be inclusive, secluded. I'll figure it out. I wanted it to be, you know, a real relationship. Anyway, whatever. I just told him, let's just break up. We can just hang out because we have, we still hang out together. So being that we broke up, this ex, he would start coming around. He saw that I was there. He would come around more, come around more, come around more, bring other girls. It was a girl that he would bring with melons. This was before I have a kid. So now, my stuff grew. But before then, I was a cute little BC cup right there. That's it. That was all. Anyways, and this girl had like, anyway, so it'll be us four. And we just ended up pairing off, and the pairing would switch. You know what I mean? Like, because I didn't really like, I only knew this ex through the 10th grade class, and it was history, so it wasn't like we were able to, well, we were talking because no one was learning, but he was class clown, so everyone was around him, so we weren't really able to like really like hang out. Anyway, so that was the only time we were able to hang out, and we started like talking and being like open and everything. And then I don't know, I just felt like I started being like really close to him. I don't know what drew us closer. Maybe it's because I knew him from the 10th grade class and I always wanted to be cool with him, you know, because he was cool with my cousin. So, and I didn't want to be that one person who's like, hey, my cousin, me too, let's hang out. Like, that's mad weird. I wanted it to be organic on just us two. So, anyway, I felt like fate brought us together and we started dating. And that's how we started. So he doesn't really realize that me and the guy whose house we ended up meeting up at, because he lived close to me, he didn't know that me and him were cool. Like, I would go there every day, because I hated being at my house. Hated it. It was cancerous. It was so suffocating. At the time, I did not look like this. I was skinny and I may say ugly. You know what I mean? Um, I was just struggling, like stressed out and struggling. Like, I didn't know what my mom expected of me, but I just knew she expected something. I'm coming up with ways to keep myself happy because everything I did was making her mad. Anyway, so any excuse to get out of the house was my best excuse to get out of the house. It was my favorite excuse. So going over there every day, I met that ex, and then being that I realized how he didn't live with his mom. Like, he was always outside. I was like, okay, we outside then. That's how we ended up being together. And that's why he thinks I'm as outside as he is. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't realize or recognize the relationship that I have with my mom. Like, I'm her only child. She's like this on me. That's why I'm like that. Meanwhile, his mom is like that on him. That's why he's like that, or if that makes sense. So so I hope that I'm able to clarify the video later on, but that's some of my traumas and how you can kind of understand. Oh, okay. This is what I wanted to say before my baby started talking about, coming um to my arms. Hold on, mama. So, oh my God, not that I lost the train of thought again. But he thought, oh, I did say it. He thinks that I'm like outside because he's outside. Like, so he thinks that being that I'm outside, he thinks that I'm a whore. You know what I mean? So that's why he put me in these positions to make people say they with me, just to put my name in some mess, like, oh, I'm just, a H. And that's not me. When people know or knew that I was one of the guys, and it's really because I like the video games. Like I like watching the graphics and everything like that. Nothing else. Like yeah, and then once you are under influences and you're watching the games playing and everything, it's kind of like you're in the world. But unbeknownst to him, he thinks that I'm out there doing A, B, C, down to X, Y, and Z with anybody because he doesn't understand the relationship that I had with the guy who lived a couple houses from me. And he doesn't expect me to like him because of who he was. You know what I mean? He felt like he was more macho-y and more manly and more this and more masculine, more all this than him, that he was baffled that I liked him. And that's one of the reasons why he's traumatizing me, throwing me into everybody's lap and mouth and trying to make it seem like, I am